Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We don't have a notes page today. That's because you guys have already learned everything that we're going to learn for this unit. Now it's just a matter of mixing it all together and practicing it. So let's get started. This is your assignment here, and we're just going to do a few sample problems. We're going to start with number 1. In number 1 it says Jamie got 17 out of 23 on the quiz. What was her percent score on the quiz? Now you may be used to calculating it like this, where you put 17 correct out of 23 total, and then you divide and you get the answer. And if you like to do it that way, that is totally fine for this problem. I just entered that wrong. Don't look at that. Let me try again. 17 divided by 23. Okay, 0.73913. I like to keep 5 decimal places. That way I have room to move my decimal point and to round. Speaking of rounding, this is not Jamie's score. That would be a really bad score to get less than 1%, right? We have to move that decimal point, and then we'll know her actual score. So let's move the decimal 2 places, 1, 2. It's going to wind up right there, and you're going to get 73.91. Now, is the 3 big enough to bump the 1 up to a 2? No, it's not. So we'll just leave that as a 1 and write our percentage sign, and that's her percent. Now, what if we wanted to make an equation? How would we do that? Let's see. We would do 17 is p% of the total number of questions, which was 23. And then we turn this into an equation. We'll say 17 equals p times 23. And then when we go to solve it, you're going to divide both sides by 23. From this point on, 17 divided by 23, you'll see it's exactly the same as this way to solve, so they kind of meet up there in the end. Either way, you should be getting this answer. All right, let's do the next one. Jamie got 35 questions correct on the math test and scored 79.54%. How many questions were on the test? Now, if you're used to doing it this way, it might feel a little bit more complicated because there's different pieces of information missing here. So instead of doing it this way, we're going to think of it like the equation. So let's see, she got 35 correct. So 35 is how many percent? 79.54%. Let's make sure that we write it as a decimal. So move that 2 places. We're going to get 0.7954. P% of, you know what, I'm trying to write this out in English and I'm just automatically doing it math. So sorry about that. Let me write it out in English here. So 35 is p%, so 79.54% of, and we don't know how many questions were on the test. We don't know the original number, so I'm just going to write x there. Okay, now when we take this and we put it in math, it's going to be 35 equals this percentage. We're going to write it as a decimal point. Anytime we put it in the equation, make sure you make it into a decimal. And then of x is going to be times x. So it's going to be like that right there. Now to figure out what x is equal to, we're just going to divide by this on both sides. Okay. And now we'll just do, this cancels out, so we're going to do 35 divided by 0.7954. And it looks like we're going to get 44.003. X equals 44.003. Now usually I'm telling you to make sure you keep a couple decimal points. In fact, it even says round to the nearest hundredth. But in this case, it says how many questions were on the test. It seems pretty clear that there were 44 questions on the test. There weren't 45, there weren't 43, and there certainly weren't 44.003. There would have been 44 questions. Okay, so that is just a little bit of, it's just like a margin of error that happened because this percentage was rounded, and we're just correcting for that. So there we go, 44 questions. I want you to skip number 2, and I want you to skip number 3, and let's see. Let's look at number 4 just so that we're doing another, actually no, I'm going to let you do number 4, but I'm going to give you a little note first. It says the smartphone was priced at $450, and a smartphone was priced at $450, but then it was on sale for $280. Before you figure out the percent of the discount, make sure you figure out the amount of the change. So your first step is going to be doing $450 minus $280. That's going to be step 1. That'll be the amount of change. So that will give you the dollar amount that the price changed, and then you'll use that to compute the percent of the discount. Okay? So let's do that. Going over here, page 2, you're going to skip number 7 also. And let's take a look at number 8 and 9. Okay, Mr. R bought VP stock at $40 per share, and then he sold it at $45 per share. What was his percent profit? Okay, just like I was saying in the other one, make sure your step 1 is going to be to find the amount of change. In other words, the amount of profit. And that is going to be calculated by doing 45 minus 40. That's going to equal your amount of change. Okay. Then use this number in your equation to figure out the percent profit. Okay, now this next question says Mr. C bought VP stock at $45 per share, but then he sold it at $40 per share. What was his percent loss? Okay, so again, step 1 is going to be 45 minus 40, and that's going to get the amount of change. Now, it's going to be $5 in both cases, but here it was a gain, and here it was a loss, and it's going to be kind of different in the answer, and the answer might surprise you. Make sure that in number 8, you use this as his original amount, and in number 9, you use this as his original amount, okay? Like I said, it might be surprising. Once you find the answer to number 8, don't assume that you know the answer to number 9. Make sure you go ahead and do the math on it. And then as we go down here, we have simple interest problems. So remember your formula for simple interest. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So the principal is going to be this original amount she borrowed, okay? And the interest rate, the R, is going to be your 4.9%, and your time is going to be 2 years. And you'll be calculating the interest, which is this I. So P is here, R is here, and T is here. So I hope that pushes you in the right direction there. You're going to use the same thing here. This $50,000 in the savings account will be the P. That's your principal. That's the amount you're putting in. The rate is going to be the percentage. And the time, well, 3 years and 6 months. What's that going to be? Time is going to be 3.5. 3 years and 6 months, 3.5 years. Okay, good. In number 12, you're calculating a tip. That's an awesome skill to know how to do. And in number 13, we've got a couple thought questions here at the end. So in 13, Mary said that crime has gone up 243%, while Bob says crime has gone down 125%. Who is not telling the truth, and how do you know? Only one of these two people can possibly be saying a correct statement. Who is it? See what you can think of there. And then in number 14, just a little bit of critical thinking. Why do we use percents? It's something we use in our daily lives all the time, probably more as adults than as middle schoolers, but I bet you guys use them quite a bit. Why do we use them? See what you come up with and write it down there. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. Bye.